So much so that you're convinced it destroyed your life. You'd do anything to make them pay for that injustice. But what if it was all a lie? This is a twisted story of how Stephen Castle, a man consumed by rage and revenge, took an innocent life, and how the truth behind his motives shattered everything he thought he knew. If you ever felt betrayed, like someone took everything from you and left you with nothing but rage, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story that will make your blood boil. Trust me, you won't believe the lengths one man went to just to satisfy a grudge he never should have had. Stay with me. In a small town called Tunbridge Wells, Kent, things were quieter than most would imagine. But for one man, Stephen Castle, 60, there was no peace. His life had been wrecked by years of prison stints, criminal activities, and a deep, seething resentment toward anyone he thought had wronged him. And then, one day, Castle's life collided with Wayne Woodgate, a 54-year-old man who, up until that moment, had no idea the storm brewing just beneath the surface of Stephen Castle's fractured mind. It was a chance encounter, one of those moments that seems inconsequential at first. But for Castle, it was a spark to an inferno. Castle had recently been released from prison after serving time for possession of illegal firearms. But his demons didn't just fade away when he stepped out of those prison gates. He was convinced anyone, was responsible for the police raid that landed him back behind bars. In his mind, someone had grasped on him, and that person needed to pay. Castle's target? Wayne Woodgate. Wayne, a family man with no criminal history, had done nothing but live his life. But to Castle, that didn't matter. The seed of suspicion had planted itself, and it grew into a monstrous belief. Wayne Woodgate had betrayed him. Conflict escalation. But there was no evidence to back up Castle's accusation. Castle didn't know at the time, but Wayne had nothing to do with his downfall. Yet the rage inside Stephen Castle festered like an untreated wound. He felt betrayed by a world that had never given him a fair chance. And now, the man he'd pinned the blame on had to die. The confrontation occurred suddenly and violently. On that fateful October day, Castle ran into Wayne. Maybe it was fate, or maybe just a fluke. Either way, Castle saw red. Words were exchanged, and before Wayne could even defend himself, Castle attacked. Wayne tried to fight back, but Castle was driven by years of anger, years of feeling unjustly wronged. He strangled Wayne with his bare hands, the final breath of an innocent man stolen in an act of senseless rage. Then, like a predator disposing of its kill, Castle left Wayne's body in the undergrowth near Pease Marsh, East Sussex. He thought he could just walk away from what he'd done. But nothing is ever that simple, is it? 6 days passed before Wayne's body was discovered, lifeless, hidden in plain sight, left to rot in the underbrush as if he had never mattered at all. But the truth always has a way of surfacing. Turning point. The truth revealed. It wasn't until Detective Chief Inspector Neil Kimber got involved that the details began to unravel. There was no evidence that Wayne Woodgate had ever grasped on Stephen Castle. Not a single shred. But Castle couldn't see that. He was too deep in his own delusions, unable to hear the truth over the loud roar of his own hatred. Castle was arrested, and as he sat in that interrogation room, he must have realized, perhaps too late, that his entire life had been shaped by a lie. He had thrown away everything for a phantom enemy who never existed, and now he would pay for it. Revenge planning and execution. Castle's twisted desire for revenge had led him down a path that destroyed his own life and someone else's in the process. It wasn't just a crime. It was the act of a man unraveling under the weight of his own unchecked emotions. The physicality of the attack, the way his hands gripped Wayne's neck. Every detail of that moment became part of Castle's life sentence. But what about Wayne's family? What did they feel when they discovered their father, their grandfather, had been taken from them so violently? In the victim impact statements, the pain was palpable. Wayne's children, particularly his son George, expressed how that empty space would never be filled again. George spoke of the trauma of knowing that his father had died alone, his final moments filled with fear. "I think about how scared he must have been," George said, his voice breaking. Climactic revenge payoff. And then the courtroom. Castle, now facing the consequences of his actions, was sentenced to life in prison. He would serve at least 25 years, though many felt that was too little for what he had taken from this world. The justice wasn't immediate. It took time. But there was something so deeply satisfying about knowing that Stephen Castle would pay for his actions. His twisted sense of revenge had cost him everything. Wayne Woodgate's family would never get their loved one back, but at least they knew that the man who stole him would never see the light of day for a very long time. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. Sometimes, revenge feels like the only way to regain control after being wronged. But when you build your entire world on lies, you end up destroying everything, including yourself. Let this be a reminder. The truth will always come to light, and karma is a force you can't outrun. If you found this story as intense as I did, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed revenge that took things too far? What's your take on how far is too far? And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories of justice, redemption, and the price of betrayal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.